Broketober is here once again, ladies and gentlemen, and it has come for our wallets.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Get strapped in and let's get right into it with the best games, in my opinion, coming out this October 2023.
In light, we walk.
In light we walk.
Lords of the Fallen, coming out October 13th for the PS5, the Series X and S consoles, and PC. Now, Lords of the Fallen is actually both a remake and a sequel to 2014's The Lords of the Fallen re-release, as it takes place more than 1,000 years after the events of the original game. The original was one of the first attempts at replicating FromSoft's, Demon Dark Souls formula, and it received a mixed reception on its initial release. Now, with a world more than 5 times the size of the original, and with a much better co-op experience than any FromSoft game, the co-op is seamless drop in, drop out at any time. One can invite a friend directly from any of the in-game checkpoints, called the Vestige, or, Beckham some random player. 2 players only, host and guest. Now, the host is in control of the world state, and they can talk to NPCs, activate mechanisms, and stuff like that, while the guests can only pick up loot drops, keep their vigor and level up, and interact with some vendors, but they cannot engage in any quest and dialogue options. So it's still definitely better than FromSoft co-op, but not better than, say, Neo co-op. I have high hopes this game will hit better than the original.
Another unfortunate made a slave to unceasing hunger.
Marvel's Spider-Man II, coming out October 20th exclusively for PS5. After a few disappointing Spider-Man games, Insomniac essentially resurrected the franchise with the self-retitled release in 2018, Spider-Man. Hands down, the best Spider-Man game ever released. You could argue that I really liked Shattered Dimensions and things that came before, even the original like Spider-Man 2 for the Xbox, but this definitely is better. And they had another smaller game, kind of like an expansion with Miles Morales. Now, just 2 weeks away is the release of the hotly anticipated Spider-Man 2. It takes everything Insomniac learned from its previous 2 Spider-Man games and finds new ways to raise the bar of superhero game design. New York is larger, more dense, thanks to having not only just Queens, but Brooklyn. Like the previous games, it's filled with activities, some exclusive to Peter, some to Miles. You can switch between them at any time outside of story missions, and it's seamless. With the camera panning over to them, it's very, very similar to Grand Theft Auto 5, how you would switch between Michael, Trevor, and Franklin. So, and they would even be doing a random activity before taking control of them, eating a pizza or something like that. So, with villains like Kraven, Lizard, and Venom in the mix, and Peter potentially being a villain boss fight with the symbiote suit, this is shaping up to be one hell of a sequel and potential game of the year.
I am Spider-Man.
The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria, coming out October 24th for PC and PS5, with an Xbox version a little bit later. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King extended editions, I consider one movie and my favorite movie of all time. So whenever a new game is announced from this universe, I instantly get excited. Now, where Gollum failed me miserably, I hope Return to Moria will make up for it. This game is set during the 4th age of Middle-earth, after the events of The Lord of the Rings, and follows a company of dwarves led by Gimli as they try to retake their homeland Moria and restore the long-lost ancient kingdom of Khazad-dûm. Return to Moria is a survival crafting game featuring procedurally generated environments in the form of, the Mines of Moria, many of which are completely pitch black. Players have to excavate resources such as iron, gold, quartz, gemstones, and, of course, obviously, mithril, of 3 mountains and craft tools, weapons, armor, structures, resources, to survive. You have to hunt, harvest food, manage their sleep temperature, your noise levels, battle orcs and cave trolls and other things lurking in the dark. You can build bases, uncover various ancient items, swords like Sting that glow blue, maps, crafting plans, magic amulets. I can go on forever. The game also deals with the history of the dwarves, the different dwarf clans, and the effects, of Sauron's death on the orcs, and has been described as post-apocalyptic. Next to the single-player mode, players can also host their own Moria and allow up to 8 players to join an online cooperative multiplayer. I absolutely cannot wait for this game. Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1, coming out October 24th for PS5, Switch, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Now, Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time. I remember replaying the opening of the demo disc that came with Final Fantasy VII over and over and over again. It was just something so different to anything I've played before. Well, the good news is, if you've never played any of these games before or want to experience them for the first time, now is that time. Perfectly timed with the 25th anniversary of the release of Metal Gear Solid. This October, you're going to see Volume 1, the first in a multi-planned, multi-volume collection that brings all the titles in this stealth action franchise to modern consoles. Notably, the Master Collection Volume 1 contains everything that was included in the Metal Gear Solid the Legacy Collection for PS3, without, obviously, Metal Gear Solid 4, which has been shackled to the PS3 since 2008. However, even without Metal Gear Solid 4, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 provides fans with the HD versions of the first 3 games in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, along with the series beginnings on NES and MSX. Now, with the exception of Metal Gear Solid 1, the other games in this collection are running at 60 frames per second instead of 30. However, the Nintendo Switch versions will all be running at 30 frames per second. So I would recommend the other versions unless you want to go portable. It's time for everyone to appreciate just how good, this video game franchise was, and I hope, maybe someday it will be again. Terminator Resistance Complete Edition, coming out October 27th for the Xbox Series X and S. Now, I loved this game on Xbox One when it originally came out. It was released on the Xbox One, PS4, and PC in 2019. An enhanced version was released in 2021 for the PS5 with a new story DLC called Annihilation Line and access to a separate mode called Infiltrator. Xbox owners didn't get this enhanced version at the time, but it's finally planned for release later this year, along with both Annihilation Line and the Infiltrator DLC content. The Annihilation Line it's a narrative expansion starring popular character from Terminator, Kyle Reese, while Infiltrator mode lets you take control of a T-800. If you're a fan of the Terminator franchise, meaning Terminator 1 and 2, this is the best tie-in game, hands down. It nails the Terminator atmosphere and has a lot of neat but not so on the nose fan service. The soundtrack is also incredible.
The shelter!
This is a game I feel was reviewed rather poorly upon release, but I hope more people give it a chance with the upgraded version on its way to Xbox owners this month. Alan Wake 2, coming out October 27th for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. More than a decade after the first Alan Wake game and 2 years after a sequel was confirmed, Alan Wake 2 is finally coming out this month. The new game is more of a survival horror title than the original's action-adventure with slight horror elements. Now, since Alan Wake is quite story-heavy, I'll give a really quick recap. Alan Wake, the character, is a crime fiction writer who heads to the small town of Bright Falls, Washington on vacation with his wife in hopes he'll find some way to cure her of his writer's block. This cabin they go to soon turns sour as Alan has nightmares of shadowy figures who try to kill him. After these things become reality, Alan's wife goes missing overnight. Not only that, the figures from his dreams begin to stalk him in the woods, and he tries to figure out what's going on. He finds pages of a new twisted novel that he wrote. He has no memory of writing. Things go from bad to worse, from people into its trucks to possessed dark forces intent on killing him, and the FBI agent arrives in town with a sole mission of arresting Alan. So the story unfolds as Alan attempts to dodge the ire of both the possessed townfolk and a wild FBI agent, all while attempting to free himself from this nightmare and find his wife. Now, Alan Wake 2 introduces a new playable character, FBI agent Saga Anderson, who is investigating a series of murders that have been happening since Alan Wake's disappearance. Players will be able to experience 2 entangled stories by playing as both Anderson and Wake on October 27th.
It's not a lake. It's an ocean.
Now, those are my most anticipated games of October 2023. I know there's others, and you can put them on like any list, but I'm going to go broke enough as it is there in this month, so I had to slim it down just a little bit.